Hello. Apologies if there's a loud fan noise in the background. It's nearly 30 degrees again in my room, and you know, everything's really hot. And apologies if I keep coughing, but for whatever reason something set my cough off today. So I've taken some cough medicine before doing the stream, but I filmed a video earlier, and unfortunately, you know, I couldn't do loads of takes of it, but it was one where I ended up sounding a bit rough doing that, just because of all the sort of coughing and hacking. Yeah, ouch. I saw as well that Portugal might even get 52, which will be the hottest ever temperature I think recorded in Europe, if Portugal and Spain do get like those 50 odd temperatures they're meant to get over the next couple of days. I live in England, mate, in the south of England. Sadly not on the coast, because if I was on the coast it would be a lot better, but you'd at least get a sea breeze. But today's one of those days where there's like no wind outside, it's totally still. It's quite humid today as well, because it's quite a few rain clouds, but the sun's still coming through. No, can't turn off the fan or I can't do a stream, because I'm not sitting here in 30 degrees heat with, you know, it's sweltering. Yeah, 76 is in Fahrenheit though, isn't it? Which I don't understand how Fahrenheit works. Yeah, this is the problem with this sort of weather. I don't do enough exercise, because like when it's cold I like going out jogging, because that will keep you at like a pleasant temperature. But where it's you know, like this, I don't really feel like doing much exercise, because you just feel like, you know, hot and horrid, don't you, after so I don't actually know yet. Depends if people bring up any interesting subjects, but at the moment it's just complaining about the weather. I've got my cup of tea I need to remember to drink so it doesn't go cold during the stream. Yeah, so you're going to be a very similar temperature raging bull to what we've got here. Oh, Bullfrog, did you hear about the Tommy Robinson thing, where he was saying he had to keep his windows shut so there wasn't spit and shit thrown through it on like the really hot days? Because they did essentially torture him in prison, the government. Alright, Vlad. The thing is with Fahrenheit is I just don't really get how it works on the Celsius scale, because the thing I like with Celsius is obviously water freezes at 0, water boils at 100, so it's quite easy to kind of work out what temperatures you like. For most people 21 degrees is perfectly comfortable. I prefer it around 10 to 15 degrees to be honest, because I prefer the cold. But Avon CT12 dog, it says in the description. Yeah, the S10's the older gen of it. CT12 and FM12 are the second generation of S10s, so it's like the S10 but better. Yeah, it doesn't sound very pleasant, but I suppose in Norfolk you at least have the chance to be near the coast, don't you, if you want to be. That's what I hate about being like right in the Midlands, is if I want to drive to the coast it's like a 2-hour car journey at a minimum in any direction if I go. I'm alright, Vlad, thanks. I was saying to people earlier, I got a bit of a cough at the moment. Again, the temperature's not very pleasant, but other than that, we can work with it. I don't like the Scott GSR either, but it looks cool, and that's why it's the picture, as it says in the description. Shall we have a look at what's going on in terms of UK violent crime? That might be interesting. Let's have a look at that now. So let's type in knife crime. Let's see what's going on with that, shall we? Knife crime is now at record highs. Oh, what a surprise. Arms race on Wales streets. I thought it'd say Welsh streets, to be honest, but you know, journalism. Or Wales' streets, I guess they're trying to say. As knife crime reaches highest of the decade. London stabbings 2018, latest knife crime statistics and attacks. Oh yeah. It's great, isn't it? But I'm sure if they're only using kitchen knives, that's alright, because they're not intended to cause, you know, physical violence. Yeah, 20 degrees in Leeds sounds much more pleasant. I normally prefer coffee, but I've got a cup of tea here. I've got Yorkshire tea because I like that more than I like PG Tips and the other brands. Oh, so IQs would on average be lower, would they, than expected? Wouldn't surprise me, but... Alright, see you if you're off. Yeah, and that's only recorded crime, isn't it? Because you're going to have much higher amounts. I get all my masks off of eBay, pretty much. No, I would not want to be a politician. I'm sure there'd be a coup from a foreign... Well, not a coup, but an invasion from a foreign country if I became leader and decided to fix all this country's problems. I suppose I'd be literally Hitler. Yeah, and the thing is with the gun crime statistics in America, they include suicides, don't they, and like the gun deaths as well, which is kind of silly, because if somebody's going to commit suicide, they're going to commit suicide, and lots of people use a gun because it's more efficient. So that's kind of one of the things. So I suppose that you could probably knock 50% off of the gun deaths per year because of that. Then accidental shootings are included, I think, in some of those as well. So you've got figures, you know, of people, you know, shooting themselves by accident with their own gun, which isn't really gun crime. Yeah, that depends, doesn't it? Though in the UK, if they have to call another election early because Theresa May's party falls apart. No, I'm medically unfit to serve. It says that. I think it says that in the FAQ. Well, a binocular video with various masks, I could do, if that's what you want to see. That'd be interesting. I've got a couple of different binoculars as well, so I could see if some work better than others, but I could use like the SHMS and other masks. I mean, that'd be similar to a scope, but I suppose that could interest people. Well, the thing is, like all the CCTV cameras, if they actually use the footage and could be bothered to investigate, I'm sure they get a lot of people, but I know from a fact that often you can get people caught even with their faces visible on CCTV doing stuff, and then the police are like, oh, we don't have the resources to investigate that. I've done regular camping, don't really have any interest in stealth camping, to be honest. One that looks cool, so like an M40 or an S10, I'd say. Or maybe an S6, because the SAS used to use the S6, and the S6 looks really cool. Yeah, because all their budget goes to policing the internet, doesn't it? I hope you didn't say anything offensive online, because we could arrest you for that. Not really, no. Like I've said with all the prepping stuff, I have short-term prepping stuff, because I'd die if, you know, everything really went to shit and I couldn't get the medication I need to stay alive, or at least stay in a good state of, you know, physical health. And I wouldn't really want to wither away slowly, to be honest, so I'd probably shoot myself at that point. I don't, like, most of the sheaths I have for my knives, and the scabbards and everything like that, are all the ones that have come with the knives, so I've never really bothered with custom ones. I would say leaf suits kind of seem better than ghillie suits, yeah, but it totally depends on the environment you're in. Just as I've said before, like, scrim netting can be really good in some environments. No, I didn't see that bullfrog. But I've seen other things apparently with, you know, like celebrities doing like military training stuff and failing horribly. Well, one of the things is all of the politicians we have now that don't have children, I think, where they don't really give a fuck about the future of the country because they don't have kids, so, you know, it's no problem for them if they do stuff that's short-term in the benefit for them but fucks everybody over in the future. I think a few people have said that, and, you know, there's always a big, oh, that's very offensive to make fun of politicians that don't have children, but it's true, isn't it? They don't have any real stake in the future of the country, so what do they care if it gets completely screwed? No, neighbours don't say anything. One of my neighbours is very rarely in his garden. The other neighbours probably think it's a bit weird, but they know why I do it, so it doesn't really bother them. And they know I don't cause trouble. You know, I never do anything dangerous with the crossbows or whatever, so it doesn't really bother them. Oh, I've got, like, some of the sheaths I have are, like, plasticky stuff. The ones I like, but a lot of people don't like, is the stuff, it's like that nylon-y stuff, but then they put a bit around the edges to reinforce it so the knife can't cut it, because that's lightweight and good material. No, very rarely have run-ins with the old bill, but to be honest, there's not any old bill around here, because all the budget cuts. So you now and again see them drafted in for traffic duty with speed traps, and that's about it. I like the white grey GP5 because it's the classic, to be honest. Yeah, have to put that in the description. I've shot a 410 shotgun before, and I think what was a 22 long rifle, bolt rifle, but that was years and years ago before I even did videos on this channel. So, you know, yeah, I have no problem with flying. I've never been in a light aircraft, though. I've always been in like Airbus or Boeing type things, you know, when I've been on holiday. Flectarn is really durable, but it doesn't breathe that well. That's the only thing. The British Army DPM stuff is a lot more breathable, but it rips easily, so it's going to be, yeah, I didn't even know Jeremy Corbyn had a son, to be honest. 410 is still a shotgun. No, I've not shot an L85A2, I'm a civilian, so I couldn't shoot an L85A2, could I? More stupid shit that they won't be able to enforce, no name. Just like all the other stuff they've tried to do that's gone nowhere, and nobody will follow the rules. It's a bit like the EU trying to do their meme license thing. Yeah, typical YouTube. I've had a lot of problems with YouTube, to be honest, recently, where like views aren't as high as they should be and stuff like that, where I know it's like something at YouTube's end where like you just suddenly get a drop off in views for an hour and stuff like that. How could I join the cadets? I'm a bit old for that, aren't I? I'm nearly 25. There's probably lots of surplus sites that sell it, or surplus stores should sell Flectarn or other military camos. L85A2 is okay. L85A1 was obviously god awful, because, you know, I'm a fan of the SLR. Even if it's clunky and bigger, it's you know, a proper rifle. Yeah, the more plastic sheaths are quite nice. Don't know if I'd have any interest in that, to be honest, but it's worth thinking about, I guess. I think that's what Tumbo 1984 does, something like he's a shooting instructor for cadets, but you'd have to ask him if he's ever on. I know he can obviously shoot really well, so I think he does do some sort of shooting instructing. Yeah, might do at some point. I've got some cold steel stuff. I have the cold steel, like, Spetsnaz shovel thing, and I have a cold steel Gladius. The Gladius is the one I keep behind my bed with a flashlight in case of an emergency, because the Gladius is like a perfect short sword sort of length, you know, and lightweight. You can adjust the recoil on the L1A1 though, because it has got the gas selector on it, like a load of the old battle rifles had, so you can have almost no recoil and the gun won't cycle, or you can have shoulder braking recoil. I'm really enjoying my cup of Yorkshire tea, I thought I'd just mention that. Funnily enough, this is a video, I was keeping it a bit of a surprise, but I suppose I'll tell the people in the stream, because there's not loads of people in the stream, to spoil it. because some people ask, could I do, you know, some more stupid videos or like light-hearted videos every now and again. Tomorrow's video, not today's, is how to make a proper cup of tea, and it's sort of serious because it's doing a cup of tea properly. But I thought some people might enjoy that, you know, showing you the colour tea is actually meant to get, not watery, horrible crap, and, you know, all the stuff like that. No, I can't see my stuff. I don't need more EO14 filters, I need more EO16 filters, technically, because I need the ones with, you know, where you can screw them onto each other. Just for a laugh, but no, I don't accept anything because I get lots of crazy weird fans on here that would probably mail me anthrax or something illegal. So yeah, that's why I don't really accept stuff. Like people like Weapon Collector, I've known for years on YouTube, I allow to send me stuff, and I send him, you know, like I've bought stuff from him and that. But for the most part, you know, I'm very careful with who I'd give details to, even if I had a PO box, because I know Weapon Collector said he's had problems before where people have sent him stuff that's legal somewhere else in the world. They've sent him stuff that's illegal and he's got in trouble for it. No, I just used a teaspoon, to be honest, but the point was, you know, cup of tea is where, I don't know how, like, if Americans would know this, but it's one of those things where quite often somebody asks you, would you like a drink, and if you say a cup of tea, they serve you nothing. You know, it's like not even a proper cup of tea. It's where they've put a load of milk in the bottom of the cup, they've chucked a tea bag in, they've boiled the kettle, they've poured the boiling water over the tea bag for like 5-10 seconds, then they've instantly taken the tea bag out, given it a stir, and then you get this watery milk basically with a slight tea taste to it, which is absolutely horrible. I used to have a praying mantis bullfrog, and I had 2 scorpions, but they're all dead now. So I still have the tanks, but I don't have room for them at the moment. I'd have to wait till, you know, I've got more space elsewhere to start having stick insects. Why was your life destroyed then? It wouldn't surprise me, because if you hear of all the other people who are kind of famous on YouTube who've had like people try and send them bombs or, you know, like poisonous stuff, or like the guy in Japan that got stabbed recently to death because he did a conference and had some sort of psycho fan stalker stab him to death. I think it depends on the strength of the tea bag though, doesn't it, if you need 2 tea bags or not? Sorry I didn't see your first comment, Jason. I've only once or twice seen hornets, but wasps can be a real pain in the ass. We used to have a pear tree in the garden where the pears would never be very good for eating. That's why I always used to shoot them in videos, because they would never quite grow properly. But that really attracted all of the wasps, where, you know, they'd be eating the pears off of the tree and then they'd make a nest nearby. There's a video where I exterminated a wasp nest using an NBC suit, which is great because they couldn't sting me. But yeah, now and again we get wasps' nests, but I'm pretty efficient at destroying them. I mean, it's up to you if you add milk or not, but you don't add the milk first and then, you know, add such a large volume of milk that it's not really a cup of tea. I've heard of the quartering, but I don't think I've actually watched his videos. Let me just have a look at his channel and see if I've seen his stuff before. Apparently I'm subscribed to him, so I must have watched his stuff before, but I don't... I'm trying to think, I must have watched his stuff before, but I just don't remember his name, for whatever reason. Is the Mark 8 helmet the American one they're buying? Let's have a look. I've seen a helmet that's like a motorcycle helmet coming up, or like a skateboarding helmet, but I can't see anything about military helmets, because at the moment Britain has the Mark 7 and they're buying an American helmet There isn't even like the proper good American helmet in US military service at the moment, so, you know, waste of money. We should just buy, you know, make the stuff domestically and have people actually work. Yeah, Challenger's going to cost a lot of money, isn't it? D&B Militaria, which is in the UK. I don't know if they can ship outside of the UK, but you generally get like lots of places all over Europe that sell deactivated guns. I haven't bought one in ages though, because lots of deactivated guns now have to be deactivated to the highest standard, and they cost more. This is the thing, so you're paying more for a lump of metal that can do even less. It's, you know, at the point where I think I just end up eventually getting a UCARA if I really wanted one, and, you know, buying a RIF that way. I used to do Warhammer 40,000 years ago, but it just got too expensive. Yeah, if you can find old helmets for good prices, buy them. Yeah, we had the Hungerford shooting and Dunblane, and they used that as an excuse to blanket ban all the guns. Well, I know of the Chieftain series, yeah, because it was the one before the Challenger and after the Centurion. No, it never did a paper round. You know, when I finished school I got a job. Well, is that a magazine or a game? Because I know of Soldier of Fortune games, but I've never played them. If it's a site that sells surplus, I've never bought from them. Like I said, I just get all my stuff from eBay, so it's pretty simple. They've not really changed much, Gasmar 612. They've been really similar. They're trying to put some more laws in now to do with, I think, semi-autos and certain calibers. But for quite a while they've been very, very similar. The problem is that you don't really own firearms in the UK, you sort of rent them, in the sense that everything is 5 years, you have to pay for a license extension, and at any point the police could come and take your guns, so you spent loads of money on them, and then, you know, you can lose them like that if they just decide to take them. The Chieftain did have a multi-fuel engine, but the Challenger doesn't, as far as I'm aware, because you could run the Chieftain on like vodka and chip fat, couldn't you? I don't think it had very good autonomy though, the Chieftain. From what I understand, I think it went through fuel really quickly. So, how does that work exactly? Because it's a smoothbore. Like a smoothbore tank gun. Yeah, I've already said loads of times I'd move to America if I could. Because, you know, I'd like a country where I'm actually allowed to legally defend myself, and I can't be arrested for saying wrong thing online. Yeah, still on my channel. Just search. I'll tell you what to search. It's called Remove Wasp. Just search Remove Wasp. You could own a tank, but I'm assuming the machine guns have to all be deactivated on it. Because I'm medically unfit to serve. How many times, militaria? That like gets asked every time, people always ignore it. The requirements are really high, because somebody else was telling me recently, you know, where they're physically fit and they were still turned away because they've cut so many jobs. Even people, you know, should be able to join up now are almost dissuaded not to. Technical Dacia, yeah. When you say finish M1, do you mean a finish M61? I don't know what the finish M1 is. RPK. Because, you know, it's an AK essentially. Oh, there we go. You've had your answer anyway. Is that in the FAQ? Because I get asked that a lot. If not, I'll have to add it to the FAQ while I remember. Yeah, I'll just add it to the bottom. There we go, it's on there now. It's possible that something could be leaking out of your half-face mask, I guess. It's also as well, filters take kind of all the moisture out of the air for the most part. So if you're wearing a mask, after a while your throat will get really dry and everything because there's like no moisture coming into your mask. The UK didn't let people in willy-nilly anyway, but Theresa May did massively, when she was Home Secretary, she did massively fail the immigration target when she said we're going to cut it down to this much, and then it went up, people coming in. IBM Model M, you know, the best keyboard ever made. Because they've just discoloured, that's all. GP5s, like all the Soviet masks, discolour if they're left in sunlight or certain conditions for too long. I've done quite a lot of videos on stab vests. As long as you get a proper ex-police one, they'll be fine. Yeah, I like cheddar. The one I really like, and I can't remember what it's called, is that Norwegian brown cheese. It's like the kind of whey type one. Yeah, Italy's actually behaving properly now. I think they're really upsetting the EU, aren't they? But they were also trying to improve like the gun ownership for civilians in Italy and increasing the rights for self-defense. So in general, yeah, I've been camping a few times. I haven't been at all recently though. No, I've never ridden a motorcycle. Wouldn't want to because you get killed pretty easily riding around the roads on a motorbike here because you just get killed by a Land Rover. Played a few racing games like Gran Turismo, but they're not really the games I'd play very often. When you say favourite bullet, do you mean favourite cartridge? 7.62 by 51mm NATO. Well, I've already got 2 Denix replicas, so the answer to that would be yes, wouldn't it? I think the people in Britain, you know, are very much, or at least most of them, because we obviously voted for Brexit and everything else. I think a lot of the people here are very much against all this stuff. It's just the politicians who are sort of clinging, you know, to the driftwood, aren't they, in the sea, where they're trying to become more and more draconian to try and keep power, because they're, you know, worried about being ousted. No, they didn't military and surplus collector. That's a myth. I've been over this quite a few times in my videos. There's been a couple of odd occasions where soldiers did it, but ammonia and urine would not protect you from chlorine gas. It's probably better than nothing, but it's mostly just the fact there was liquid on it. All of the proper military masks were soaked in actual chemicals to neutralise gas. It wasn't urine. About £30 plus for a CT12 or S10. No, I've never seen GP2s for sale, and I'm sure they'd be very expensive. But as I've said with any mask, if I see it for a good price, I'll get one. But I'm just not spending loads of money on certain masks for the sake of having a single mask. No, you need an armoured car in London, I think, in 5 years. Yeah, I've played the original Fallouts, but they've not aged very well. 3, New Vegas, and 4. New Vegas being my favourite because, you know, it's the closest to the older ones, just modernised. Now, if I've got a mask in my collection, there are videos on it. This gets brought up a lot, so, you know, if I've got a mask, I'm not going to pretend I don't have it and don't do videos on it. If I get a mask, I do videos on them. Like I said, I'm not interested in Battle Royale games at all. BTR 152 for an armoured car. Yeah, the riot helmet arrived, and it's too bloody small. Even though it's over the size of my head, it doesn't fit me. But luckily the liner can be removed, so what I've done is I've taken the liner out, and then probably today I'm going to have to cut the liner down to size, and then it should fit me fine. But if you're going to get a Mark III riot helmet, make sure you buy it probably 50 centimeters. Well, not 50 centimeters. Yeah, 5 to 7 centimeters bigger than your head, because mine's 2 or 3 centimeters bigger than my head, and it's still too tight. FM12's already said about £30 plus. A few years ago. If you look at my channel, it'll become quite obvious. GP6 is the GP5M. There's no such thing as an actual GP6 though, but when people say GP6 they mean GP5M. I don't have an M40, so I can't tell you. There was a video explaining that Demi-Dawn, but it's actually quite obvious if you think about it for 5 seconds. Yeah, exactly. I can't wear this helmet at the moment until I've cut the liner down. The actual helmet is massive, because what I think they do with those riot helmets is they only actually have 1 or 2 sides for the actual shell of the riot helmet, and then it's just liners inside. If you've got a smaller head, they put a bigger liner in the inside. So all I need to do is, with the liner out, probably get a hot knife, cut the styrofoam inside, you know, cut some of the styrofoam out, so it's actually bigger on the inside of the helmet. Then I can get it really comfy. The Mark III helmet is definitely a step up from the Mark I, but I think the Mark I's inside liner system's a bit more practical for just having a helmet that you can put on and wear. Yeah, the Argus is the Mark I helmet. The Guardian Mark III helmet technically is better on the inside, it's just that the Mark I is a lot more practical, I'd say, for just being able to put it on and wear it, because there's less padding on the inside. Cool, see if you can find anything interesting there then, Jack. Military and surplus collector is right. And I think the bit weapons and stuff should be quite obvious, shouldn't it? L1A1 SLR, I'd like to own if I could own any gun. That'd be for rifle, for a pistol, probably a Browning high power or a SIG P226. Depends on your area and which provider you're on, Chris. Also, if you have solar panels, you can sometimes actually make money with electricity because you can generate it back to the grid. Yeah, well, most old steel helmets are better than no helmet, this is the thing. Old steel helmets can still sometimes stop pistol rounds if you're lucky. They're obviously going to stop shrapnel, they're going to protect you a bit from impacts to the head. So, you know, the old steel helmets, they're not bad, this is the thing. As long as you get one with a good liner that's comfortable enough to have on, you could do a lot worse than a steel helmet, especially if you had the option between a steel helmet and no helmet. GOST filters fit on a GP5 or normalised filters, but not NATO filters. I already answered that, Spamero. I said a BTR 152. They will to a degree, Pixel Blitz. Not as good as like a motorcycle crash helmet or a riot helmet. But obviously, if it's a steel helmet and somebody hits it, the helmet's going to absorb some of the shock, and the liner's going to absorb some of the shock. Compared to not having a helmet, it's much better than, you know, not having one. But again, it's not going to be as good as a crash helmet. But pretty much all helmets are better than not having a helmet, I think we'd agree. If it was something that meant a lot to me, Matthew, yes, but I've never thought of anything that would be good enough that I'd want to be permanently inked with it. I'm doing alright, thanks. We covered all that at the beginning of the stream, but I guess you weren't on. Other than it just being too hot at the moment. I answered that last time. It was AR-15 over an AK-47 or an AKM, but I'd have an AK-74 over an AR-15, I reckon. And you specifically mean an AR-15 and not an M16? Because if I could have an like AK-74 or whatever, or an AK-47 or an AKM with, you know, select fire on it, but the AR-15 was semi-auto only, that might motivate me to get an AK. Or if you meant, like, you know, M16, or do you just mean, like, civilianised version of a Kalashnikov? Bren gun. It's my Bren gun. Yeah, I suppose if it's too cold, CO2 doesn't shoot properly, does it? Did you find out what the mask was? Because without a picture I couldn't tell you, but yeah, like I said, you don't really trust surplus sellers because lots of them will lie to sell stock. Well, the Setme and the G3 is the same rifle, isn't it? The G3 is just a Heckler & Koch produced version of the Setme. I'd really like to get a Setme Owl though, because they look really cool, even though I know they have problems. Yeah, thanks Richard, I was looking into that because I did see some videos of people using like heated wire to cut styrofoam. So I might try that later. I can just use one of my blowtorch lighters to heat up a wire or something, or a knife. Right, see ya. Yeah, I watch quite a lot of the Slingshot channel's videos. I think he makes good videos, but I'm not really interested in all the videos he makes. Because as much as I find a lot of that stuff interesting, after a while, like with any channel, and I think even people watching my channel, you'll probably find it a bit too samey. So now and again he'll do something that I find quite interesting, but a lot of the time, you know, it's, oh, another slingshot he's made, okay. Yeah, I think guns should be legal here just simply because of the fact that criminals can get them regardless. I think that probably depends on supply, Intrepid, because if he can't get much of it, he's probably going to charge a lot for it, so just buy what you want to buy if you're buying anything from him. But I found that with like surplus from any seller, sometimes stuff is really overpriced what you think it should cost, and some stuff seems very cheap. I think it is just literally a supply and demand thing. No, tasers are illegal in the UK, mate. I can't have one, so no, I don't have one. I've got one of those lighters, the electric arc lighters that people keep saying, oh, you could use that as a taser, but you can't, as I demonstrated in the video. No, I haven't got an Instagram. Hello, Tumbo. Well, probably getting firearms, I imagine, if you exclude vehicles, because, you know, actual firearms are generally very expensive for surplus ones, other than the select few. They're just far, far less common because most people issued with an S10 had no use for outserts. The outserts for like specialist roles, why you needed a mask on. Yeah, I was just talking about the plasma lighter, because I said about the electric arc lighter, which is a plasma lighter. Like I said, they're not tasers as much as people think they are. You'll just get a very slight burn if you put your hand between the beam. Foul, I already said that earlier in the stream. Yeah, like I was saying, like all the time on eBay though, there will be some sellers with stuff for cheaper than other sellers. That's why I always look around, and when people are like, oh, but there's an M40 on the UK eBay, but it's over £100, like, yeah, I'm not going to spend over £100 on an M40, so I'll wait. Yeah, it depends where you are. In the UK, shipping's nearly always free, or like £3 or something, so yeah, but if you're in America, obviously it's going to cost more to have stuff shipped. to America. Yeah, you've always had to pay tax on it. I have a form where I can put all my expensive and incomes on it. Oh yeah, that's a good point, Tumbo, especially if then it's Nazi firearms. So if it's like MG42s and MP40s, that's really expensive. That's the thing, so when I was looking at deactivated guns, you could buy like German MG42s, like just the MG42, not in good condition, from World War II for like several grand, and then you could buy the Yugoslavian copy of MG42 with like the tripod and all the accessories for like less than a quarter of the amount. I think that was the same with like Mausers and everything else, and like the Yugoslavian MP40s, they were just much cheaper. I don't live in a state because I'm not in America. Is that like a Mark 3 or 4 tortoise helmet then, Samurai? Deactivated guns are legal, assuming they're deactivated properly. Yeah, I think it's just with the FAL because it's like such a big reliable rifle, even if it was a bit clunky and heavy supposedly, you know, and wasn't very nice to carry around for long periods. You know, it did its job, and there wasn't really much that could go wrong with FALs and SLRs and everything else. I mean, over 90 countries did adopt the FAL, so it was the right arm of the free world. It was kind of like the West Kalashnikov up until, you know, later generation of firearms. I voted for Brexit, but at the moment Theresa May and everybody else is fucking it over, as you'd expect them to, because they don't actually want us to really have Brexit, because all the people in charge of Brexit are pro-EU. No, I've not heard of one of them, no name. If I can't afford to, I run out of space. I've stopped a lot of it now with that, just because of how much space I've got, which is why I've definitely slowed down getting a lot of it. As well as obviously having to get a new car and everything, but a lot of the time it's just simply because it takes up a lot of space, and you know, in real life people don't have infinite space. Like, you know, it's not like I have a warehouse attached to my house where I can just put all my masks and everything. You just have to find room for them wherever, which gets more and more, you know, irritating the more stuff you get. Connor, read the video description, please. I'll have a look at what that is then. Lymphony, if I'm pronouncing that right. Oh, well, so that's a pre-war one. That's pretty cool. It's a bit like a GM30, isn't it? But not quite. Yeah, I like the look of that. There's some variants of it that actually look a lot like the British Mark IV, but others that don't. Never eaten lobster. Yeah, I keep my FM12 in the car. It's in its carrier under the seat with a filter, because, you know, I've got that as, yeah, so. Out of interest, Tumbo, which Riot helmets do you have? I think you have some Riot helmets, don't you? Because I ended up getting the Mark III Guardian Riot helmet recently, because it looked a lot better than my Mark I, but then I found the sizing on them was completely off, because I bought one bigger than my head, and then it's too tight, so I've had to take the liner out, and today I'm going to try and cut the liner down a bit, because it's like styrofoam, it's that ESP impact foam stuff, to make room for it. But I'm kind of curious if anybody else has got a Mark III helmet, if they found the same thing, because it's very strange that mine's meant to be like a 57cm size one, and it's just far too tight for my head. Yeah, I think I've moaned before, haven't I, Richard, about I've got a rowing machine that I spent loads of money on, and I barely get to use it because everybody in the house has piled stuff on the rowing machine, you know, where they've run out of space. So at some point, I think when the weather gets cooler and I want to use the rowing machine again, because at the moment I'm not going to use the rowing machine for an hour or so in this temperature, I'm going to probably go up into the shed where there's still a bit of space, open the shed up, just take loads of the stuff piled on the rowing machine and dump it in the shed, because, you know, it annoys me that I bought that, I found a space for it, and other people have dumped shit all over it. No, damn me siblings. What I have seen that are really interesting is some of the old pilot helmets, especially the ones for like the MiGs that could go really high, like I think MiG-25s and 31s, which are almost like astronaut helmets. Yeah, I know Draeger. Draeger's a very famous German mask manufacturer. Draeger is like the German version of Avon, basically. You know, it's like Germany's most known, well-respected mask manufacturer. No, I don't have one under my pillow. I've got one all over the other areas of my room, but it wouldn't really fit one under my pillow. And you shouldn't use your mask as a pillow, because that can damage it. That was an old World War II American poster. It said, don't use your gas mask as a pillow. Not a rail machine, a rowing machine. You know, like if you're rowing a boat, it's one where your legs, it's got like a movable seat, and it's got like the movable thing, so you use your legs and arms to kind of kick away, kind of thing, if that makes sense. A bit hard to explain, really. But yeah, maybe, Tumbo, it's a bit like with shoes, because it's like I'm anywhere between, I think, a size 8 and a size 11, depending if it's shoes, trainers, boots, and whatever brand. So I said to Mike, because Mike was thinking about getting one, I said make sure you just buy the biggest size possible, then just put more padding in it if you need to, because the actual helmet shell is all one size. But my Argus, the Mark 1 helmet, is a 60cm one, and this other one I've got is 57cm, and the 60cm one's got a load of dead space in it, and the 57cm one is way too tight, which doesn't make sense, because my head's 55cm or so if I measure it. What also didn't make sense is my dad's got the exact same sort of skull shape as me, so I got him to try it, and he's like, oh, this is comfy, it fits me fine, and I can't work out why, because I took a, you know, skull measurement from him using a tape measure, and they're both, you know, they both have the same size, so I just can't work that out. But I think it's because my temples stick out quite a bit when I close my mouth. You know, like where the muscle is on the temples. CT12 pixel. Not anymore, Connor. Yeah, I've already answered that, Spook. No, I don't know. Colin Furs military. Well, I don't have an M2000, so I can't really review it or rate it. It looks better than the M65, but as I said, without trying it, I don't know, and I'm not spending, you know... The outserts on it look really cool, because I've seen ones where they've got like 6 different colours of outserts that you just clip on. Don't worry, Blue Neon Wolf, I'm still on for another 12 minutes. Because in the Cold War, Hans, it was expected that there might just be huge areas turned into like chemical or biological wastelands, where everybody started using the chemical weapons but hadn't escalated to nuclear weapons yet. So it's so your sniper can use his rifle even if there's gas or like anthrax everywhere. There's some of those really cool Dutch gas masks, though, saying that, that you've brought up, which can take the 60 and 40mm filters at once, where they've got the 2 screw threads, which I thought was really cool. I don't know, it really depends if chemicals inside it have worn out. Alright, I'll try and remember to tell him that, Tumbo, if he's streaming later on, I'll mention it. He does stream, doesn't he, Friday night, so I'll try and remember. Yeah, it's always stuff like that. It's got the proper sizing markings in saying it is the size it's meant to be, not like the seller had given the wrong size, but yeah, it could be people in the factory bored and wanting to go home and mislabelled or not quite done. Yeah, I've seen a lot of people put the filters on the outside, but it's a lot easier to do that, isn't it, than trying to stuff them on the inside. Yeah, Chris Vector's one of those guns that's sort of interesting, but I don't think it's, you know, priced sensibly, like a lot of firearms, you know. Yeah, like we're saying, Richard, that's the thing with a lot of the exercise equipment. I end up exercising, like weightlifting, jogging, whatever else, a lot more in the winter when it's, you know, generally cold and you can keep yourself at a pleasant temperature by exercising, than in the summer where even when I'm not doing much I feel too hot, because I'm definitely somebody who gets on better with the cold than the warm. Well, I would have said Remington 870, but didn't they have loads and loads of production problems with those recently, where they've, like, for quite a while they've been absolute crap, so then Mossberg 500. I do like the Benelli Supernova, though, because when I was thinking of actually bothering to apply for a Section 2, shotgun license, my local gun shop had Benelli Supernovas in for not a stupid amount of money, so I thought they looked really nice and I know they're really durable. So I'd say Benelli Supernova if I could choose any pump shotgun. Well, a Trabant there, Mats. I've never driven a Trabant, so I can't tell you how good or crap it is, but I do know Ladas, at least, as much as they're a joke car, Ladas are really robust, and there's a video where somebody uses a Lada 4x4 to go from the west to east coast of England, going off like the really bad country roads, even where like Land Rovers would get stuck, but the actual Lada did fine because of its lower weight. Yeah, I don't blame you, Intrepid. Like, you'd have to do it in front of an aircon unit, wouldn't you? Out of the one Polish gas mask I have, the MP5, but the MP6 looks really good, but it's going to be a while before it, you know, ends up on the surplus market, I guess, for reasonable money. The MP4B is still a cheek filter mask, so I'm not a massive fan of it, but the MP4B does have the best drinking tube on any mask. And it's a real shame that the MP5 doesn't use the MP4B's drinking system. It's similar, but not exactly the same. Probably not. I mean, if it is really snowy, you could get an old bed sheet and you can tie that. The US actually did that in World War II. They had like pillowcase things that could be cut to be worn. It's just literally like a white overall they wore for the snow. No, the newest German gas mask is the M2000 we were talking about earlier. Isn't there a company that's reviving the Trabant, like making a really modern one? Yeah, I mean, I quite like simple cars, Tumbo, because I've got a Dacia Sandero now, and I actually really like that, just because the fuel economy is good, and you're not paying for any gimmicks, and even that is like a budget car, has cruise control and whatever else, and aircon, so I can't really fault it. I was quite happy because I think the way I'm driving, the trip computer thinks that I can get about 500 to 550 miles out of a full 49 litre tank on it, which is pretty damn good because my Golf couldn't get 400 miles even if you were only doing motorway driving with it and doing it at 60. And the Golf's fuel economy wasn't awful, it normally got between 35 and 45 mpg, depending on how heavy footed you were driving it, but yeah. I'm really liking my Sandero because it's cheap, should hopefully be very cheap to keep running, and it's actually fuel efficient as well. Now that they've got 5.56 working properly, Spook, out of shorter barrels, I'd say an M4, but previously I'd have said an M16. But if I could choose between any of the 5.56 rifles, I quite like, is it the SIG 550 series? Because, you know, really well engineered Swiss rifles. GP5 Drago, assuming you've not got long hair. That's a shame if they cancelled that modernised Trabant. With a lot of lubricant and anger pixel. Or you can do what I do, where you get a knife now. I did this with my M10. I wouldn't do it to all of them, especially if it's a rarer cheek filter mask. But you get a knife and you cut the pouch to be slightly larger, because you can still cut it in a way that you can seal it and keep the filter in, but by cutting it that way you can get the filters in and out much easier, because really with a lot of the cheek filter masks they could have made the pouch a bit bigger, to be honest, and, you know, it'd still sit properly inside. So on my M10, because it started ripping anyway when I was trying to get the filters in, I just got a knife and neatly cut the pouches to be bigger. Yeah, I still get loads of people enraged say to me, oh no, but Sledge's mask is absolutely fine, you don't know what you're talking about. Because I've got asthma, I've got autism, and I've got ulcerative colitis, so I'm pretty sure that's 3 things that would make me medically unfit to serve. And as we were saying earlier, because there's been so many budget cuts to the forces anyway, lots of people who are very healthy and fit enough to serve were laid off, you know, so their requirements now for the forces are really, really high. So I'm medically unfit to serve even if I wanted to, basically. If there was a big war, maybe they can script me and use me as cannon fodder anyway, but, you know, the point is that actually, how I am now, they would not want me in the forces at all. Whether or not I could get into the police, I don't know, because I know of the police, they kept lowering and lowering and lowering the entry requirements because they've had so many police quit, and, you know, to, like, make it more, like, ethnically friendly, or whatever the word is for it. So, you know, like, women could be in the police, and, like, short people from, like, Asia could be in the police and things like that. They, like, massively lowered how high you had to be, you know, like, tall, the physical fitness requirements, you know, and all the stuff like that. So maybe I could get into the police, not that I'd want to be in the police, but... weirdly enough, my Fallout 4 character looks exactly like me as well. But that was just because when... Yeah, I have autism. I'm high-functioning Asperger's, which means I'm not really, you know, too spurgy. But I do have, like, a bit of a tic and stuff like that. That's why I'm so interested in military as well, because I guess it's like my autism fetish type thing. My special interest, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, they wouldn't let me in because of that as well, Chris Foss, but that's regardless. You see, no, Tumblr, this is what I'm saying, I couldn't do stuff like that. I'd want to arrest actual paedophiles and, like, murderers and stuff like that. I wouldn't want to arrest people for saying offensive things on the internet. Yeah, that's the same, Richard. That's what I like about my Dacia, because it's essentially a Renault, because their Dacias are old Renault cars anyway. It's a Renault Clio, just with it's just a simplified version of Clio, but the engine and everything's still Renault parts, so you're just getting a Renault for much cheaper that's more reliable. Thatcher does have a voice diaphragm. Let me just look at... Because I thought Thatcher was the only one that has a properly modelled mask, because he has the SF10. Yeah, Thatcher has the proper mask. If you mean the little voice diaphragm on the side, it's because the SF10 is designed so you can take that blanking plug off and put another filter on. But his mask is pretty much the only correct one in the game, but he is wearing it over a hood, not wearing the flash hood over the mask, which means it wouldn't work anyway. But that's like a thing they do wrong in all the films and games where people wear gas masks, they wear them over balaclavas. I wouldn't mind getting some replica or deactivated grenades, to be honest, but that's like one of those things I think they've got a lot stricter on, because I've not seen them for sale in any surplus stores anymore, because my mate's got like a grenade where you can pull the pin and throw it, and it's just obviously had the explosives taken out, or like filled with sand or something. Yeah, I don't know much about pineapple grenades, I'm afraid. I know you get defensive and offensive grenades. Like, defensive grenades have a bigger explosion radius, because they're designed to be used like a tripwire. I think it's because Pixel, they do things to make them look cool, don't they? Like, they go, oh, well, we'll make the mask look like this so it looks cool, rather than actually being practical. Avon FM12s, because it's hiring a British company to make masks and they're good enough. Oh, it's like, is it just a lot of them, I guess, get thrown and exploded rather than deactivated? That's probably why, yeah. Because they're like one-use items, aren't they, grenades? Yeah, like I said, I have got a friend with a deactivated grenade that's pretty cool. Maybe I'll see if he wants to sell it at some point if he has no interest in keeping it. It's either a deactivated one or like a completely good replica, you know, that's made out of metal in all the right places rather than being resin and things like that. Yeah, I'm sure in the US you can probably buy guns, can't you, from military surplus stores and everything else. Like I said, I do like Americans because I like the idea of the First and Second Amendment, where you can't be arrested for saying something that's offensive, and I'm saying offensive in quotation marks because it's getting worse and worse here for what's considered offensive. And, you know, all the other crap in terms of, you know, like being able to own a firearm and self-defense not being illegal, you know, like stand your ground laws are obviously really sensible. I don't know any with mag feeders, because air rifles are generally, if you're getting like a Springer or a break barrel, they're single shot. There are some PCP with like revolver type things in, And I think Gammo did one that's a break barrel with a revolver type thing in, so like you break the barrel and, you know, bring it back up, or it's an underlever where you do that and bring it back up and that cycles it for the next shot, so you get a load of shots in like a little magazine kind of revolver thing. But my only experience of air rifles is really break barrels, because they're the only kind I'd actually want to get. I wouldn't want a PCP just, you know, purely for the reason of it's not practical to use if you don't keep filling up an air tank. I don't know, Richard Smith. It wouldn't surprise me if like the knives that look like all this sort of thing soon they'll ban, because they'll say, oh, it's a stealth knife. I was saying earlier, I'm sure I'd be arrested if I said what changes I'd make to the UK, because we don't have free speech, so I can't tell you. But I'm sure I could fix the country or die trying. Until I see anything reasonably priced, Chris, no. Because every time I've looked on eBay recently, it's only masks I've already got, or the masks I would want to get that are stupidly expensive. Once I get this riot helmet sorted I've got at the moment, I'll be doing more gas mask compatibility tests for the riot helmet. I think somebody requested earlier that could I do a video testing various binoculars or gas masks. I'll do something like that. I'll probably do a spate of gas mask videos again soon, because I think some people have lost interest where I've done other things, which is a bit of a shame, because I don't like to just do gas mask videos. You know, I like to talk about a lot of other militaria, but I think some people subscribe purely for gas masks. And then of course the sad thing is with YouTube that when I don't do a spate of gas mask videos in a row, YouTube thinks people are no longer interested in my channel, and then they don't promote me as much, which then means I don't earn as much money from YouTube, which then means I think, can I continue doing this, or do I need to go and get a 9 to 5 again? Yeah, sounds great. Enraged. Very triggering to some people, I'm sure, but absolutely great. Probably MP5K, because it has a proper stock on it. I do like them. I do like all the Uzis though. No, actually, if you look at the amount of views, generally the videos I've done about knife changes and stuff like that get far more views than the gas mask ones do. This is the weird thing. I think Weapon Collector said the same thing when he's done videos on like knives and stuff, you know, and UK laws changing with stuff like that. They get more views than his regular videos as well. But out of all the recent videos I did, I can tell you, like, based on the last few weeks, I can tell you what ranked the first. My video that said get body armor while you still can was my most viewed video in its first 72 hours of being up. My second most viewed video was why military camo beats, you know, like hunting camo for survival stuff. That was the second most viewed video. My third most viewed video was my worst gas masks, which is what you kind of expect, because it almost sounds a bit clickbaity, doesn't it? So people who are really into gas masks or just into anything find stuff like that. The parody video, Real Men Don't Wear Body Armor, was the fourth most viewed. Trump going to Blenheim Palace with the Osprey and the Black Hawk when he came over was my fifth most viewed video. The thing about Novichok and the fake news regarding that was the sixth most viewed. A video on UK knife laws theory versus reality was the seventh most viewed. Then there's all sorts of videos after that ranked randomly, so I don't think the knife videos turn people off at all, to be honest. Lee Enfield, gas mask review. I think I probably missed a load of comments there. Yeah, see, Hav's actually asking for more videos on stuff like that. The thing is, I'm not an expert on the laws though, so I don't want to give people bad advice. I'm just sort of saying the stuff that pisses me off personally, with, you know, especially when they say, oh, this is a good knife and this is a bad knife, because it doesn't matter if somebody's intention is to stab somebody. It does not matter what kind of knife it is. Yeah, there was a, I don't know if you, I think you did see the older video, didn't you, Tumbo, where they were obviously doing a practice thing a few days prior, where they had, I think it was 3 or 4 Ospreys fly over with a load of other helicopters. But then when Trump was actually over that day, I think there was only 1 Osprey, 2 Black Hawks, and I think there's 2 police helicopters, like much further left and right as like escorts. But yeah, I'll tell you what tonight's video is for those of you that are interested. I'll finish the stream fairly soon as my throat's going pretty dry now. Tonight's video is on my £40 crossbow, which is not a toy. I'm demonstrating the £40 crossbow actually has quite adequate power, because lots of people seem to think £40 in a crossbow is too weak, and why I would ideally recommend a more powerful draw weight than that is to prove that, you know, £40 crossbow is not a toy, and at 20 yards sort of range it can still get fairly decent groups into a foam boss. Yeah, I think lots of the world considers the UK a laughing stock, so lots of people kind of want to know what's going on in the UK. And because I never used to do really any politically motivated videos at all, but I'm getting a lot more into it now. Just talking about it, not really because I'm that political, but just because of how bad the situation's getting in the UK, where I think, you know, you kind of need to speak up about it rather than keeping quiet and saying, yeah, this is fine, I don't mind more and more and more of my rights being taken away. Yeah, CS gas is a particle, not an actual gas, so it's stopped by the particle filter, but if it's dissolved in methylene chloride, I don't actually know if it would be stopped by a particle filter. I couldn't really find info on that out, and obviously can't test it myself. Lancaster. Yeah, no worry, Bob Stone, although I'll be finishing in a minute. Yeah, like I say, some people are interested in some videos, some are interested in others. You can't keep everybody happy, really. Yeah, you can have particle filters fail, though, and stuff like that. That's the thing as well. Because I had somebody recently tell me, you know, when some people try and be smart and they act like idiots, that I can't test a gas mask with air freshener because air freshener is a smell, and gas mask filters don't stop smells, because when I was in the army I had a particle filter and you could smell through it, but it stopped the CS gas, so you need to train with your filter using CS. So the guy doesn't know the difference between particles and vapours, and you know, that's why NBC or a CBRN filter has both a particle and a vapour filter section to it. They've wasted all their money on F-35s though, haven't they? I don't know how many F-35s they're going, but it seems a shame to, you know, only really have F-35s. Yeah, I might stream some games again at some point, but I'm waiting for the weather to cool down, because when I play games the GPU and CPU have to run hotter, and therefore my horribly insulated room that's stupidly warm gets warmer and warmer. VX Pixel. In theory Novichok, but I don't know how much of that's real. No, I wasn't in the army. I was like basically just reading out a comment militaria that somebody had left where they didn't understand how tear gas worked. But didn't the Tories at one point said they didn't want us to build any more Typhoons, despite the fact we'd already put all the R&D into it and it was money for Rolls-Royce and like British companies? I thought they were getting the Tornadoes out of service, weren't they? Because it was originally a fighter, then designated as a bomber, and I think they're replacing them now. Well, all the masks that came with filters, plus the extra filters, means I have more filters than masks, but I think I have quite a lot of masks that didn't come with filters. But I think I probably do have more... Yeah, I do have more filters than masks, because I've got an entire cupboard filled with plugged GP5 filters I'll never use. Oh, what, the Chinese M65? Oh, I don't know, because UK Customs like stealing my parcels, so it's a bit of a crapshoot if I get anything I order from Far East. Well, I know that I'd say probably the Typhoon, but that's mostly because I'm a sucker for stuff that was partially made in Britain, but the F-22 is nice as well. I still find it funny that the F-22, the Americans said, the F-22 is more expensive, we need to develop a cheaper plane. Let's make this thing called the F-35. And then they blew even more and more money on it. I'm not selling any filters now. Right, let me think about that. Hard to say. The Canadian C3 is a really good, like, kind of copy of a British lag mask. There's not many I can think of. Right, see ya. You said you said your parcels aren't being stolen or seized, and then you said seizures happen all the time, so I don't know what point you're trying to make. I don't know how I sounded American to American. I don't really know Richard Smith. Alright, okay. But the thing is, I don't even get letters to tell me they've seized the parcels sometimes when I've ordered stuff. But I do reckon Customs has stolen a lot of my stuff before, to be honest. I think I'll say this as the last thing before I go off, but I mentioned to people before that I had an item I ordered in, I think it was 2016. I ordered it either September or October 2016. And all it was a plastic mount for my sat-nav, so it was like, at the time, so I could plug my TomTom into that and then stick it to the window, because my one had broken. The official TomTom ones were like 20 quid. The Chinese knockoff one was like £2 or £3. So, basically, I ordered this in like September, October, and it was meant to be a month at most to come, because it was coming from China. It never arrived. After a couple of months I contacted the seller, they said sorry and they gave me a refund, so no problems there. I think literally a year later, or it might have been like 9 months later or so, I finally had it come through in the post, and I could see the date Customs had taken it, which was, you know, like a couple of weeks after it was posted, and then I didn't get it, you know, the Customs sat on it for like 9 months. So yeah, I just really don't trust Customs. I think if you wanted to steal stuff, that would be a good job to go into. But I have no idea the criteria of how they check parcels or sit on parcels or whatever else. So there we go. I can't just simply move to the US in rage, sadly. Unless Trump does political asylum for people in the UK who might be arrested for wrongthink, where they can just move to the US and get a job. Sadly, there's no way I can simply move to the US. Yeah, I've ordered lots of stuff that's not been dodgy at all, like gloves, you know, like sat-nav parts, things like that, and they've just been seized every time. Or, you know, sat on for ages, never turned up. I've noticed though, if I often do the thing so I like pay £1 extra for better tracking and insurance, then it never seems to get stolen, because I know exactly when it gets to UK Customs, so maybe they don't do it at that point. Maybe I'm blacklisted, but this sometimes happened before I even did much on YouTube, so I don't even know why. Can I do a redneck accent, Billy Bob? There you go. Yeah, I was saying earlier, I love my Sandero. It's cheap and it works properly, which is, you know, nice. Anyway, there you go. That will be the end of the stream. Thanks everybody for watching. It's been nearly an hour and 15 minutes. My throat, I need a drink now because my throat's gone and not to talk for a while. So thanks everybody for watching. Hope you enjoyed the stream. It was actually quite good questions for the most part on the stream, which was nice. So obviously 5 PM for the video at the usual time.